9th meeting of the Syracuse Planning Commission. We have a customary set of public hearings for this evening, and ordinarily we would take action on our minutes from the previous meeting. We're unable to do that this evening, given the number of folks who were at this meeting and also at the last meeting. So we're going to put those on hold until our next meeting 3 weeks hence. So our procedure for tonight for the public hearings is each application will be announced by a member of the staff from the podium or from their microphone, and we will ask the applicant or their representative to come to the podium in the center of the room and present a brief summary of the application. And following any questions from the commission members, we will then open the floor to members of the public who wish to speak in favor of the application, and a similar invitation to those who wish to speak in opposition to the application. And where there are comments made in opposition, we will encourage the applicant to return to address those comments made in opposition. As you come forward to speak, whether you're presenting the application or offering comments for or against, you are free to take your mask off so that we can hear you clearly. We want to hear what you have to say, obviously. And then as you complete your presentation or complete your comments, please put your mask back on as you return to your seat. And we'll be following a similar procedure here. When we're listening, we'll be having our masks on, and when we're speaking, we will take our masks off to make that a little more clear for everyone here. So with that in mind, we can begin with our first public hearing, please.
First public hearing is SP 2106. This is a special permit for a restaurant at 714 Catherine Street. It lies within a business class A zoning district, and Basim Anuasha is the owner and applicant.
Hey, I get to take my mask off.
It's the other microphone in front of you.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, my name is Sheila Weed. I'm an architect. My company is Group 1 Design, and I'm here to represent the owner. Need a little more. The owner for this building. The owner bought this building. It was partially renovated, or the building was actually done. Somebody went through and renovated the outside, put up signs, and renovated the inside. And he said, whoa, how lucky of me. And he had never got a building permit for any of it. So I had to explain that we're starting at step 1, And so we did the drawings for a building permit, and I explained to him that we have to do this modification for a special permit. So we did go through all the steps, site plan. The building was an existing direct subs, and I don't know, was it a gas station beforehand or something? Do you know? No, I don't know. But it's on a very odd triangular site, Lodi, Catherine Street, and the building sets back here, so it's a very odd, very hard to use site. Currently, there's an curb cut off of Lodi and off of Catherine, and we are proposing to close off the Catherine Street curb cut so people could only come in off of Lodi. We can get 4 cars parking, and on our site plan we show, we show the paving, we show we've taken off a lot of the tarvia, or as much as we could, and have some plantings. We did get some feedback from different agencies, and we will have bollards and some different things that we will add based on the design review drawings. So they're basically doing the same business that the direct subs did. He's making sandwiches. People will come in or call. They'll make sandwiches and take them and go. There's no dining in. There will be some sales of chips and soda and things like that, but it's not really a grocery store. You wouldn't go and buy just mustard or anything like that. So it's just things that go with that type of food that you're ordering. I don't know. Yes, we have, we're looking for a variety of different variances. We don't have enough parking. We don't have enough landscaping. The site is so small. Actually, we're supposed to have 150 feet of road frontage for a restaurant. We don't have that, but it's an existing triangular site. So this is what we have to work with. So we can have maybe one more car parking, but we'd have less grass. We can have more grass, but then we'd have less parking. But we maximized what we could on this triangular site. That's.
Thank you. And I don't recall the number, but I think there are quite a few waivers requested for this application. Can you walk us through the requested waivers one by one and provide a rationale for the need for each of those waivers? The commission can, with justification, grant waivers, but absent a reasonable justification, that's in a difficult position to do that. So if you could just kind of walk us through one by one.
Well, because of the building size, 7 off-street parking spots are required, and we show 3 parking spots and 1 handicap spot. So we have 4 spots, so we are short 3. We feel that in a small residential neighborhood that many people will probably, hopefully, just walk here and not need the 7 spots. So I can't see that because we're 3 spots short, we're going to be, they can park on the street. There's street parking on both or walk. The other one is, it says that all landscape areas shall be adequately protected by a raised curb or bumper guard. We don't have a curb on one portion of this because we have water runoff and that was going to the grass area, and if we have a curb, then the water won't run into the grass and get absorbed there. So we didn't show a curb in that area. I'm not the landscape architect, so I'm going by what she had said. Curbs provided along the edge for accessible. The site plan doesn't show the required curbing on the edges of parking. Said we do not have some curbing. We have a note on our drawings stating that there's no curbing on one side, again, to allow for drainage. There is, where we exceed the signage that is allowed. There's the ground sign is existing from many years ago. We're only installing new graphic panels. So there was originally, when the owner bought this, I think it'd say more than the allowed also. So we have extra signage. What else did you guys say? The site plan does not illustrate the required landscape treatment along the Catherine Street. I said because this is a very odd-shaped site, unique location, we can either provide landscaping or parking, but we can't get we can't get the quantity of landscaping required and the quantity of parking required because the site is too small. Then it says some of the other things. There's a minimum setback of 10 feet shall be maintained for all structures and parking areas from Lodi, which is a minor arterial by the Federal Highway Administration functional classification. The existing building has a 5-foot setback, and the building is existing, and we haven't done anything to alter the building, so that's kind of an existing condition. Then it also says there's a minimum of 150-foot frontage along Lodi Street is required for any restaurant. The property is 145 feet. So we're 5 feet short, but that's the property that's the size that this property is. And it says there's no less than 10,000 square feet in area shall be used for a restaurant situated along a designated arterial. And we have 3,800 square feet. So again, this is an existing site, and it doesn't meet the 10,000 square feet. We'd have to buy up part of the neighborhood, I guess. So again, this is an existing site, and it's not, if this was a square site, it might even be a little better, but it's a triangular site. So, I don't know. Yeah, do you see all the pictures that were submitted? Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Questions from the commission members for the applicant?
The staff had a couple of comments. We don't see a dumpster area on the.
Yeah, they were going to just, because they can't, they were just going to take it out on a daily basis inside, because there's no room to put a dumpster and get a truck in to empty it. So they said on a daily basis, they're just going to remove it from the property.
And on the parking, I counted 4 spaces, but they commented that one of those 4 was needed for a turnaround.
I'm not the landscape architect, so I wish he could have come. I think that between the back of the car and this area, that maybe there would be enough. Or if we'll say that this is the turnaround, then we'll ask for a variance for an extra parking spot. I believe there's enough room to back out and then go. We can answer that.
Okay, and I understand about the curbing and the grass.
We're missing curbing along this side because we wanted this landscaping to act.
Is that Catherine Street?
Yeah, the Catherine Street side. Some of the comments that came up from with the code review, they have asked that we put some bollards along that side. So, and we're going to remove the curb, reduced curb, and raise that curb and add the brick pavers and redo the sidewalk and put bollards there so nobody drives over there because there isn't a curb. So we're going to put bollards along that side where there's not a curb, because we want to be able to do something with what rain goes in there.
Okay, and the width of the driveway, I have a note to myself that it was
24 feet?
Yeah. I'm not sure whether 24 feet is allowable. 24.
What's the standard width, driveway width?
24 feet.
It is 20,
Oh, it
okay.
is 24. That's what I had.
Any other questions for the applicants from other commission members?
Commissioner, just a question back to the staff about the wall signs. Was there any comment, any discussion between your office and the applicant about the number of signs and the size of the signs?
No. Other than notifying the applicant of the deviation.
So with regard to the signs, you mentioned the ground sign was pre-existing. It had been used with a previous use at the site. The additional signage is new?
It is new, but Drex Subs had signs on the building too. So it wasn't that they didn't have any signs at all.
And but they exceeded the
Yeah, so they,
40
they,
square
I think
foot.
they would have been in excess also, because they had signs on the canopy, they had a sign here, I don't know where else.
Item 14 in your report addresses the signage that was approved for the previous direct subs.
Questions?
Steve, I just want to clarify, both the transportation planner and the engineering did state that that curbing on Catherine is to be replaced. So that's, I don't think something that can be negotiated. Because they will make that comment in the permit review as well. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
So that's it.
That's the
That's at
curb.
variance with what you just described along Catherine Street, right?
No, the Catherine Street, it's the curb cut that they want us to take the reduced curb out and
Put a curb in.
the one out near the street. And then we're
If I
gonna,
can interrupt just briefly for clarification, any reference in your report regarding curbing is on-site curbing. Any reference from the city transportation planner, DPW, or engineering generally refers to street curbing in the street right-of-way, or in the city right-of-way. So there are several different types of curbing, but generally, what's identified as a deviation is on-site curbing that's on the property itself around the parking lot.
You asked for, four variances?
no, I don't,
Five?
but there was like four, it was more like 40, yeah.
So, yeah, but the main ones, like the sign, the 3 spots,
We're short parking spots, we have too much signage. What other ones are main ones? I don't know.
would you consider like, communicating with staff on ways to potentially address those? Or do you think you need more time to try to figure something out?
We will definitely need a variance for parking. We definitely need a variance for landscape coverage because we don't have enough square footage we can't get 7 spots on the site because of the odd shape. So there's no way there's 7 cars. Even if we could shoehorn 7 cars in, the more cars we put in, the less landscaping. If we meet the landscaping requirement, we'll have no room for parking. So we kind of tried to balance how many cars we felt we could get, and in areas where we just couldn't get parking, we made it landscape because it's a triangular site, so up at that peak, we're not gonna get a car in there, so that we deemed was our landscaped area. So we tried to get some of both.
Any reconsideration for smaller signage?
We could cut down this smaller sign. I mean, I guess if we wanted to, some of these, and I know it's not our money, but it's somebody's money. Yes, and these were installed without a permit, but I guess if I was gonna tell the owner he had to alter signage, it would be the sign, the pole sign, I guess, because these are already on the building, and there's boxes for electrical that, might be, I don't know, you'd have to buy new canopies or something, or maybe cover that up. I guess if that was an issue, I don't think this is overly signed compared to some of the things I drive by, so. But there was a note in the other email that said that the signage was somewhat okay, but they wanted to make sure that no additional signs were put in windows, like 2 Pepsis for $1 and all the stuff we see all over, so. So it seemed like the sign was okay. I can't remember who said that, but parking bollards, a bike rack, we'll install the bike rack, but. So I guess if that was an issue and we had to, we would discuss with the owner where what sign, I guess, give me a square footage and we'll see which sign they would want to, what would be the cheapest sign for them to alter, you know? Yes.
Okay, thank you. Unless there are further questions from the commission members, we'll now invite members of the audience who wish to speak in favor of the application to come forward to do so. Provide your name and address for the record, and then please share your comments with us.
Hi there, my name is Dallas Bryson. I'm here from NEDA, the Northeast Holly Development Association. This property certainly has some challenges that it's going to need to overcome for this business to be there, but I think that's going to be true for just about any business that would potentially go there. And right now it's just one more empty storefront on the north side. Also, this property, this restaurant's going to be open until 11 o'clock, and right now after 9 o'clock on the north side we've got Burger King and Wings Over Syracuse. So this would be a welcome addition to the few options that are available there currently. That was it.
Okay, thank you very much. Other individuals who wish to speak in favor of the application, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come to the podium. Okay, I think everyone who wishes to express an opinion has done so. We are in a position to close the hearing, and we can consider action on this application one way or the other. Is there a motion on this application for a special permit SP-21-06?
Certainly subject to any friendly amendment needed. Move approval of the negative declaration granting the following waivers. A waiver of 4 off-street parking places. That's the engineers talking about spin around. A waiver of the arterial setback, arterial lot width, and arterial lot size because the building is an existing property. The indicated that we're going to address the raised curb and curbing, so we're not going to move away from vehicle curbing. And I'm not going to waive the landscape curbing. I think there should be a discussion with staff about that. Move to grant the waiver of the 46 square foot wall sign. And again, I think the other signs could be subject to their own review. So at this point, those are the waivers that I'll move to grant tonight.
Walter, can you go back to the, did you move to grant the waiver of the, sorry, I can't read this, number 18.
You go from my list to your list, okay?
Yeah, no,
I think I counted 5 waivers, but I'm not entirely sure.
So for 18,
the required landscape treatment along Catherine and Lodi, there's a minimum of 8 feet in depth.
and so they can't do that because of the size of the building.
So you granted that?
So granting the-
Okay, thank you, I just missed that one.
This is waiver of lot width, of arterial lot size, and arterial setback requirement, and also granting the waiver of landscape treatment area requirement. So that brings us to 6.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor of the motion as proposed, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions? The special permit is approved on a vote of 3-1. Okay, thank you for your presentation. Our next public hearing, please.
The next public hearing is SP 2107. This is a special permit for self-storage facility at 861 Van Rensselaer Street. Allied Realty Corp. is the owner and Storage Cap Syracuse LP is the applicant. And this property is situated in the Lakefront T5 zoning district.
Thank you. The applicant here.
I'm Joe Pietrafesa, and some of you, or most of you, may remember I was here in February of 2020 for this project here. We came before you that night for two reasons. One was a small subdivision that combined two nearby properties that we have owned for over 50 years, and the second was for a special use permit for the development of a self-storage facility. So just to kind of refresh, this was what was previously approved in February 2020. Consisted of two phases. You can see the first phase here on the left, which was a 18,000 square foot building, 2 stories, with 22,500 square feet of single storage behind it. Second phase was on the right, about a 5,500 square foot building with, again, an identical 22,500 square feet behind that. We were pleased to get your approvals for those permits in, I believe, first week of March 2020, and then, of course, 2 weeks later, everything stopped. So kind of pulled back and waited to see what was going to go on with COVID. And around June of 2020, I got a call that Storage Cap Realty, was in the market. They're a national storage developer, also larger retail commercial developer, doing a market study similar to the one that we did, which showed the great need for this kind of product in that area. So we contacted them and asked them if they would be interested in purchasing the property from us with the entitlements. We went under contract around June of 2020. It's been a kind of a long process, but we're here tonight. They've had some site plan modifications, and they're also reapplying for the special use permit. I think you'll see when Ed Moran comes up, we were about to spend around $3.5 million on this property, and they're going to spend considerably more and make it actually quite nicer than what we were going to build. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ed Moran, who's with Storage Cap, and you can ask him any questions going forward. But thank you for your time.
Good evening. So as Joe said, we went under contract for his already approved storage facility and retail of the second phase back in June of 2020. And after doing a market study on the need for self-storage in this market, we own about 65 facilities across the country, 17 different states, and we do everything from own, operate, develop, and we manage the facilities through its entirety. And we don't like to sell the facilities, we like to be a part of them for the entire life cycle of the property development. So we came to Joe, and our architects, our engineers, and everyone in-house said the safer, the higher and better use of this property is to do a single or a 2-story single building of self-storage that's entirely enclosed in the back of the property with 2 retail pads up front for 2 future phases. And the reason for the fully enclosed building is it's a more retail or a residential friendly use of self-storage. It's a lot safer than having the drive aisles of the different buildings, and it's just an overall nicer product than seeing the actual doors of the self-storage from the outside. So it's a bit more visually friendly and residential friendly as well. So we're continuing the pursuit of this development, self-storage in the back, 2-story building with 2 retail pads up front. One of the deviations that Jeff was able to point out to us was there's only 1 building up front with a building in back that's permitted. We thought that it would be a benefit to the community to have 2 future retail pads to kind of spark retail development and just give a bit more retail service to the tenants and the residents of this lakefront district. So that's why we went ahead with the 2 retail buildings. But overall, we have more parking, more landscape, and we actually have less lot coverage on this property than what was previously approved. So we're here seeking the modification to do a 2-story self-storage facility with the 2 retail pads up front. And we're here to answer any questions. I also have our architect with us as well to answer more technical questions.
So can you specify what elements are in Phase 1 and what elements are in Phase 2 and the time differential between the two?
Yeah, absolutely. Can I see the site plan, please? Thank you. So for Phase 1, we're going to have the back storage building. That is our true bread and butter as a developer. We're going to grade the entire site. So right now it's as vacant land. We're going to grade the entire site, get both retail pads site ready. We're going to bring utilities and make sure that those pads are ready to be built. While we build the self-storage in the back, we're going to be scouring for retail tenants. A few national tenants come to mind and have actually approached myself and Joe for occupancy at these 2 pads, one being UPS, one being FedEx, one being Sherwin-Williams. So service-based retailers who have an interest in kind of sticking home in this lakefront district here have approached us. So storage would be in the back as our first phase, and then shortly after, upon identifying tenants who would want to occupy those 2 retail pads, we would be doing a built-to-suit for those tenants as well. So in terms of a timeline, upon getting the actual permits to build, we're looking at about 8 months to build the storage, and then shortly after, about 6 months, maybe 12 months after that, to find the retail tenant or 2 tenants that would go in those 2 buildings to occupy those suites.
Thank you. Questions from the commission members for the applicant?
What's our experience with phased projects, and what if the phase fails to come about? What do we do?
So we have had you have had some experience with that, particularly in the lakefront, where phases are proposed and they are not all built, or projects are approved and then they are built differently or not built at all. So it's a good question for law to see how can this board hold the applicant to its requirements to build all phases, and in what time frame, so that what gets built here is really what's proposed and not part of it, or
and the phase development issue has come up with several of the requests for time extension that we've gotten. Yes. So that is one that when any permits issued, with these approvals, I believe it's 1 year is the standard approval period, and applicants have to come back for extensions if there is delay. I can imagine for many people, COVID would have been a legitimate reason for delay in development last year. And as with some of the other projects, you have asked for justification as to why, and I believe some of them have been denied. Is that correct recently, some of the extensions?
Yes. And I think, Rebecca, you want to know, if they don't build the two front buildings or the back, whatever, all phases of this, what can the city do as far as enforcement is concerned? And I know that's an enforcement issue, and I think...
That would be probably a bit more complicated to, that hasn't come before me as a code enforcement case, but it is the Division of Code Enforcement that would enforce any violations of the code, and if that would be considered a violation, I don't have an answer to that right now, but I can look into that issue.
So I think what you're hearing the commission say is they're very tepid about phasing.
Sure.
We have had instances before where buildings are proposed and parking lots get put up. So I think maybe that's something that if you could address, that would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So the storage, like I said before, this is our bread and butter. We're under construction for about 15 different facilities right now across the country. So building the storage is what we do and what we do best. Members of our team have retail experience with both finding tenants, leasing buildings, as well as putting up the actual retail itself. I think the biggest challenge that we're willing to face is finding a retail tenant in the COVID environment. I know that's just been a challenge across the country, but that is something that we're willing to battle, and we don't have any issues building the actual buildings ready to be filled by a retail tenant. I think the actual challenge with the retail pads is just going to be the time to find that tenant who's willing to sign a 5-10-year lease to occupy that space in this environment of uncertainty.
Thank you. You're still left with the dilemma of the phasing and how to do that. I mean, the extension question is really kind of a separate issue. That's an easier issue to deal with. I mean, conditions on the ground may change, and the commission could grant the extension or not based on those changed conditions. And this is really a different problem of a different nature, because if the concept is something that the commission embraces and likes and approves based on the totality of all the phases, and yet if all the phases don't roll out or don't roll out in any reasonable amount of time, that's problematic. And I guess I'm hearing you're not able to provide any assurance other than a good faith effort, and we appreciate that. And I would maybe ask legal counsel if you're aware of any mechanisms or tools that the commission could use at the front end if it were inclined to approve a project of this nature that is relying upon a phased approach to help strengthen the likelihood that the phasing will happen as proposed in a reasonable amount of time.
I would, I'm sure you're speaking like of, say, conditional approvals that strengthen that would strengthen the approval in order to encourage that, better ensure that phase development does happen. I don't have a clear answer to that right now, and if you do decide to hold this, I can prepare a legal memorandum on the issue of phase development. It's apart from researching our time extension issues, it's fairly new to me. So as far as the code enforcement end of it, so I can prepare something for you on that.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot and have an instantaneous answer. It is a somewhat recurring issue, and it might be something we need to look in, or ask you to look into.
Yeah.
To see what might be available. Okay.
Yeah, and if you are inclined to hold this case open, I can have that to you before the next meeting.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
I can also give an example of something with a phase development that we've done. Down in St. Petersburg, Florida, we built a 4-story self-storage building with ground floor retail that delivered back in 2019. And when it delivered, we couldn't find a retail tenant for the ground floor. So we went back to the city of St. Petersburg and we built self-storage after our good faith efforts of finding a retail tenant with multiple leases in hand that fell out. So there might be a way that we build the buildings with the intent of leasing it to a retail tenant, and as long as the buildings are built, we can occupy them with a storage use. This way, the storefronts are there, the buildings are built, the development looks complete, just the use of what's inside the buildings would revert back to self-storage, which we have done in the past.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Before we ask for public comments, are there other questions from the commission members for the applicants, either the applicants?
I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come to the podium, provide your name and address and your comments. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward and offer your comments. We have no additional speakers. I'll pause for a moment here and turn back to our legal counsel to indicate, I think it would be helpful to the commission to draw upon your expertise with the review and any insights or recommendations that come from that review that you could provide at the next meeting. And in light of that, I'm wondering if it's prudent to close the hearing tonight or keep it open until...
If you feel that you don't need any more information, that you do have the information that you need as far as the case itself, then you can close tonight if, and that would be acceptable. Although you do have the option of holding it if you feel you'll need more information. And of course you can ask for more information from the applicant as well.
Steve, I would also recommend if the commission has any comments about any of the deviations and any recommendations you may have to the applicant who's here tonight to either reduce the number of deviations, that would be helpful to them and their designers, and also if you do wish to hold it, you could. I would hold it open because we have a member that is not here.
It's exactly what I'm thinking as I look back here on the agenda. We have a member who has stellar attendance, but she's out of town right now, and I expect she'll be back at our next meeting. And we didn't really address the requested waivers, and there are a number, 9, I think, on this project. And so by holding the hearing open, we can have the opportunity for the applicant to address each of those requested waivers. As we mentioned with the previous applicant, waivers are permissible in terms of the commission's authority, but with justification, reasonable justification. So we want to ask the applicant tonight if the team is prepared, or at the next meeting, since I think we're going to hold this hearing open, to be prepared to address the 9 waivers that are requested as part of the project.
Sorry, Mike Ritchie, Costage Engineering. I can speak to the waivers, even though it sounds
Great.
like this may be held open. Maybe put some of them to rest so they don't carry over to the next. So these were the July 30th, I believe, comments, responses to the revised materials that were submitted. I can just go briefly down each. First, the proposal deviates from Part B, Section 9, Article 4, as amended in that one principal building and one outbuilding may be built on each lot. The applicant is proposing one principal and 2 outbuildings. I believe that is a waiver that would be requested, as that's the current project as proposed. The next, the applicant is proposing to plant 4 Red Point red maple trees, which are not listed as an acceptable tree. We will revise that and choose a tree that is on the accepted list. The next is that minimum size shade trees shall be 4-inch caliper and 15 to 20 feet in height. The landscape and lighting plan shows shade trees 2¼ to 3-inch caliper. We will revise that to match the city requirement. The next is shade tree plantings are required at the ends of each of the parking bays, and that there appear to be 6 without shade trees. We will add those additional shade trees to the plan. The next, metal halide or incandescent light sources shall be used for exterior lighting, and we have shown LED lighting. We will revise the plan to meet the city's requirements. The next, facade shall be built along a minimum of 70% of the principal frontage line. Instead of building along the remainder of the lot, a freestanding wall may be built in the same plane as the facade. The site plan illustrates 2 commercial buildings occupying approximately 43.5% of the lot frontage without a freestanding wall. And Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're willing to construct that freestanding wall to make up the percentage. The next, the exterior finish materials shall be limited to brick, stone, wood, or clapboard siding. The elevation illustrates cement plaster, and I'll defer to you if that's something that Store Space is willing to. We will revise the architectural plan to meet the requirements of the city. The next is that the architectural openings shall be constructed with their height equal to or greater than their width, and the elevation illustrates windows and storefront systems wider than their height, and this will be revised going forward. Let's see, the next one, single sign band may be applied to the facade of each building, providing it does not exceed 3 feet in height, and a single sign for each business of less than 4 square feet may be attached perpendicular to the facade. The site plan illustrates 9 signs on the storage building totaling approximately 258 square feet, some of which exceed a height of 3 feet and none of which form a cohesive sign band. And Ed, I'll defer to you if that's something that Store Space is willing to revise to meet city code.
Yeah, I think we'd be willing to come back for the signage permit and discuss that at a time, given the size of the building.
And then the next one, screening for outdoor trash storage areas must be masonry, 5 to 6 feet in height with architecturally compatible walls and gates. There is a enclosure shown, but it does not have details. The revised plan will have the detail for the enclosure. Believe that's the last comment or waiver. We have received some comments from city staff, technical in nature, and we plan on addressing all of those going forward.
Well, thank you very much. That's very responsive, and I think if I'm keeping count accurately, you eliminated the need for about 7 waivers that were in the original project. So I think we would be well served to keep the hearing open, accept the revised plans that you're going to present or send to the staff between now and then, obtain some additional information and insight from the law department, and then I think we'll be in a better position at the next meeting. Sir, please.
Would it be possible to, guarantee or in the meeting build, one of the deviations was we did have 2 retail buildings up front with the storage in the back. I believe the deviation was we were only allowed to have 1 building in the back with 1 up front. Our company can guarantee that we build both buildings as part of the same phase if we can get a closed hearing today. And this way it's all built in one phase. We have the retail up front, we'll have the storage in the back, and that's not we address the deviation from the.
I'm not sure I followed all that.
So instead of having 2 phases, we would build everything at 1 phase. And then this way there's no issue with the phasing of the 2 buildings.
I mean, it gets approved as one project.
Yep.
It's just that sometimes when the commission knows that there's a phase, they have concerns. So, yeah, I mean, what's approved is the comprehensive project, just like you had on your site plan.
Sure.
So, I do have one date for you. So if you could get us the revisions no later than the 23rd,
okay,
because that's when our next agenda will go out, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
So your request of us tonight is
is we will build the storage and the retail as one project in one phase, with the closure of this, so I can close on the land and begin the building permits and get the project started.
So you're asking for action this evening, favorable
Yes.
action this evening, not just any action, but favorable action with that
I think we would need to
change.
see the revisions.
Yeah, we
They
would,
would want to see the revisions first.
yeah, we'd want to see, basically, we'd want to see the revisions, and I don't think that we'd probably be able to come to a decision today. There's too many unanswered questions
Okay.
for us to give you a favorable, like, close today.
Understood.
All right.
It sounds like we're getting a revised project application. So I think that means we hold it open, or in anticipation of a revised application, advertise again for a new hearing for the new application that now has far fewer.
Yes, and it sounds like on top of your legal question about phase development, even if that's now a moot point, you still have all of these open, or you haven't seen the most up-to-date designs.
So should the commission maintain this hearing open while it's awaiting significantly? Okay, okay. All right. Didn't hear that.
Sorry.
So we will hold the hearing open. It would be to your advantage to get the revised materials in as quickly as you can. So, I mean, they still have to undergo staff review and a report out to the commission, but it would put us in a much better position for action on it at the next hearing, which will be at the end of the month.
Yep, understood.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Did I ask members of the public who wish to speak in favor? Okay, thank you.
We got you.
Last I'm putting my notes down item by item. So this one is held open. And we're ready for the next public hearing.
The next public hearing is PR 2111. This is a project site review for partial demolition, new construction, and facade alterations to expand the number of dwelling units from 4 to 6 on the property at 517 Walnut Avenue. Jack Mamie, corner of Walnut LLC, is the owner and the applicant, and the property lies within a residential Class B zoning district.
Good evening. David Mosier, president and owner of Harrington and Mosier Architects, 1035 7th North Street, Suite 1A, Liverpool, New York, 13088. I'm here to represent Jack. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it up today. But as Heather mentioned, right now at 517 Walnut Ave is an existing 2.5-story framed house building. Jack, in his vision throughout the Walnut Avenue corridor and up Madison, has renovated and altered over 6 projects separately. I've been involved with 5 of them, fortunately. So what he's developed a nice template to go into these older structures and renovate them from the inside out. We were able to minimize the amount of addition to still achieve his floor plan template that he's found been very marketable and be able to rent out very quickly. So with that being said, we've been able to meet all the lot coverage requirements that are there. We did apply for a variance, and they'll be approving the resolution for minimum lot width, which was the required 50 feet, and it's at 46.05 feet. So with that being said, the one thing, there is no on-site parking. There wasn't any existing, and there is none proposed because the site cannot handle any on-site parking because of the setback and the location. So we're maintaining basically still the front yard setback that is there with the the existing porches, and then we're just expanding to the rear and slightly to the side to provide for as I say, the floor plan template that works out well for the layout of the building. We're able to utilize right about 80% of the existing foundation. We'll repair and replace as we need, but we also utilize the existing floor joist as well. And any of the architectural elements that are in the building that we did find are quite nice. So we always try to implement those within the alteration and renovation of the project as well. That's it in a
Thank you.
nutshell.
Questions for the applicant from the commission members?
When does the Board of Zoning Appeals act?
They heard the public hearing on Thursday, and they will adopt the resolution at their next meeting, which would be August 26th is when they can adopt the resolution. They looked at the width of the lot. This board is looking at the design as well as parking, I believe.
Apparently don't have any questions at the moment, although I do want to point out that our missing colleague has considerable design expertise, and I'd be inclined to ask her to review and comment on the application as well. She just happens to be out of town this evening. So I'm inclined to ask the commission maybe to hold this so that we can have the benefit of that expertise when she returns. But before we get to that, if there are no direct questions for you, commission members, we'll see if there are any members of the public who wish to comment on the application. So if you're present, I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
so
no,
if you
fine.
have more to share, that's great. And if not, we'll just see if any of the members in the council chambers wish to speak.
Wonderful.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the overview. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, come to the podium, provide your name and address and your comments. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward and offer your comments. So no one here this evening seems inclined to want to comment on the project either way, which is fine. And I would just ask my colleagues for an indication if they're willing to hold this item so that we have the benefit of our design expert on the commission. Acceptable? Okay. So that's what we'll do. We'll hold this and bring this back at our meeting at the end of the month, 3 weeks from tonight, with, as I said, the benefit of her expertise in reviewing this. So thank you for this evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public hearing, please.
Next public hearing is R2121. This is a re-subdivision to combine two properties into one new lot at 121 and 123 Stenard Avenue. Gabrielle and Cynthia Freeman are the owners and applicants, and both properties lie within a residential Class AA zoning district.
Hello.
You can take your mask off if you're making the presentation, please.
Gabriel Freeman, 123 Stenard, and we just wanted to make the yard larger. We kept people from crossing through the neighborhood. We've already, I don't even know what to say. Just want to make it one property for taxes.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the two applicants from the commission members?
Just, it's fenced in, we got a pool on it, I mean, it's just gonna be a yard for the family.
It's just to extend the yard and then close it, close it in, so we don't have people cutting through.
Say that again, I can't hear you.
Just to enclose it, so that we had a lot of kids cutting through the yard previously, so we bought that land.
Okay,
We just want to make it a bigger yard,
gotcha.
but nothing, we're not building anything on it, no.
Okay.
Other questions for the applicants? No? Okay, thank you very much. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward. Okay, no additional speakers. Thank you both very much. We'll close this hearing and entertain a motion, if there is one, on this re-subdivision.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I said we'll entertain a motion if there is one.
Second.
Discussion.
Steve, did you do in favor or against?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're all.
This time I remember.
It's the math. It's really
is the
making my
math.
brain fog. Okay.
Changes the whole dynamic of the meeting. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? And all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? That re-subdivision is approved, R-21-21. Thank you both very much. Our next application, please.
The next public hearing is R-2141. This is also a re-subdivision. This is to combine two properties into one new lot at 215 and 221 East Glen Avenue. The Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation is the owner and applicant for both properties, and they lie within a residential Class A1 zoning district.
I'm Terry Luckett from the Syracuse Land Bank at 431 East Fayette Street. The Land Bank submitted a use variance application to the BZA to maintain 215 East Glen as a two-family residence. It's in an RA1 zone. That application is still pending. When we submitted the application, we found out that in 1990, the assessor's office combined 215 with the vacant lot next door at 221 East Glen Ave for tax purposes. The zoning office doesn't recognize that as a legal re-subdivision, so we're here tonight. Each lot measures 33 by 132, and the combined lot measures 66 by 132. The vacant lot will be used for additional yard space and off-street parking for the tenants of the rehabbed 215 East Glen Ave. There'll be no change in the character of the neighborhood because the lots have existed as merged parcels since the 1990s. The re-subdivision and renovation of East Glen will correct off-street parking irregularities, and that will be an improvement. And there are also several other lots on the street of comparable or larger size. That is all.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant on this re-subdivision? Okay, thank you. Are there individuals who wish to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come forward. You're going to need that again. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward. We have no additional speakers. We'll close the hearing and entertain a motion for action on the re-subdivision.
I just want to confer with law for a moment. I don't think you can act on this because the Board of Zoning Appeals has not.
Oh, my error. Do we need to wait for the other board's action first?
Yeah, I just.
Can I ask that we approve it contingent on the approval?
No, because it's, actually, they, hang on one second. They, I think that motion failed. They did not approve this, so you cannot act, I'm sorry, cannot act.
They asked for us to come back to the next meeting with additional information. I
Oh,
kept it
that's
open.
right. Okay, yes, no, you cannot act until they act, because it's a use.
Their hearing is, and then, okay.
Yeah, so you'll hold
Do we need to
Thank you, Terry, I forgot.
Hold it, yes.
hold it as opposed to?
You can't approve it contingent on?
No, like,
No?
With it being a use variance, that also requires the seeker review, and these are, as does the resub, but with that, with the board having to do that seeker review, I wouldn't recommend that they act separately. Sorry, I wouldn't recommend that this board acts prior to the board having that holistic view of the use variance application.
Okay, well, we have to come back.
Well, it will come before. You have given your presentation already, so you don't necessarily have to do that again, but the application will be coming back.
Okay, thank you.
So just to be on the safe side, is there a motion to reopen the hearing that was closed moments ago?
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
second.
Discussion? All in favor of the motion to reopen the hearing and keep it open, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? So the hearing remains open, and we'll await action by the Board of Zoning Appeals. They meet when they meet prior to our next meeting.
On the 26th.
Okay, thank you. Our next hearing, please.
The next public hearing is R2142. This is a re-subdivision to combine two properties into one new lot at 914 and 922 East Genesee Street and 410 to 418 South Crouse Avenue. Syracuse University is the owner and the applicants of the properties, and they both lie within a Business Class A zoning district.
Hello, everyone. Jennifer Bybee, Assistant Director of Campus Planning for Syracuse University. Office is located at 1320 Jamesville Ave in Syracuse. As Ms. Lamondola described, this is a very straightforward application to combine two properties, those located at 914, 922 East Genesee Street and 410, 418 South Crouse Avenue into one combined lot. There isn't really say, overarching, compelling, urgent reason to do this. It's merely that in the course of discussions about some interior renovation work that the university is doing at 410 South Crouse, our office, the planning office, and the real estate office decided we should just combine these. We have owned the 410 South Crouse property since about 2018, and we think it just seems a little straightforward to have them be one parcel. That's really all there is to it. And it's type 2 action for seeker, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant? Good. Okay. Good. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Are there individuals, excuse me, who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come to the podium, provide your name and address and your comments. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come to the podium. No additional speakers. I think we're in the clear to close this hearing and entertain a motion on this re-subdivision.
I'll move approval of negative declaration.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The re-subdivision R-21-42 is approved. Thank you. And we have one additional public hearing this evening.
The last public hearing is R-2143. This is a re-subdivision to combine two properties into one new lot at 324 and 326 Rugby Road. James and Heather DeBlasi are the owners and applicants, and both properties lie within a residential Class A1 zoning district.
Good evening. I'm Heather DeBlasi, and I reside at 324 Rugby Road. Never knew I lived at 326. And we've owned it since 2006, and the properties have always been combined tax-wise. We've had several permits, and they've been granted, but we never knew until we've just applied for a garage permit. And that's when we found out that our properties weren't re-subdivided, weren't together. So we'd like to have them together so that we can go on and get the permit for our two-car garage.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant from the commission members? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come forward. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward, provide your name and address and your comments. No additional speakers. I think we can close the public hearing and entertain a motion on this re-subdivision request R-21-43.
Motion to approve on negative declaration.
Second.
Thank you both. Discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The re-subdivision is approved. Thank you. We have additional business, just not public hearings, and we have a minor, one item under the classification of minor modification. Heather or Jeff, would you please provide the overview?
Yes, the minor modification is SP 2007M3. This is the third modification to a special permit for a car wash, and this is to modify the site plan at 2027 Park Street. The scope of work is installing fencing along Park Street, 425 linear feet, as a matter of fact. All right, part of the fence encroaches into the city right-of-way. The commission approved the special permit originally in March of 2020 for the car wash, and the modification, two modifications, one in June and one in January of within the last year and a half. This proposal does not necessitate any waivers from the zoning rules, but the fence does encroach in the city right-of-way.
Thank you. Sir, are you here to provide a little additional context for this and the need for this?
Yes, I'm Ben Harrell with CHA Consulting. So the project has been open for about 3 weeks now, and after hours, there have been some unwanted visitors to the site, rummaging through trash cans and just creating additional work for the staff there, leaving trash on site. So the owner would like to add this decorative fence. It's currently enclosed on 3 sides by chain link fence. And so they wanted to do something a little nicer than chain link fence. So it'll be a decorative fence. The 2 gates will have Knox box, lock boxes for the fire department. They're sliding gates, so they'll have a key so the fire department can get in for emergency access. There'll be a swing gate for the sidewalk connection. But it's pretty straightforward. There is minor encroachment that's only to connect the fences. Unfortunately, the existing chain link is within the right-of-way, so it's only a foot. So.
And, approximately how many linear feet of fencing?
425.
And corroboration from the law department that the encroachment issue requires additional approval beyond the commission. Is that correct?
Yes, the encroachments are in the jurisdiction of the common council into the public right of way.
Any questions for the applicant?
Yes. That's right, and you can comment, so I am always asked to comment on encroachment, so it would be, I'm acting on your behalf. So if you approve this, then I can act on your behalf to say the commission approved the proposal, and they can use that in their deliberations.
So we can act favorably and approve it, but it's not the final word. Council needs to make that determination. So that's an additional step for the applicant. But that's always the case with encroachment, so it's not a special issue here. Additional questions or points of clarification for the applicant from the commission members? Good. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for the presentation. Is there a motion then for action on this special permit modification to the car wash?
I move approval of the negative declaration. Do I have to have
A condition? We have to have a condition? Yeah. No, because we automatically say that in the decision that it is contingent upon another body giving its permission for that which is not on private property. You can say that if you want, but I'm going to write it anyways. Yeah, okay.
So there's some motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
And discussion on the motion?
Just the comments for asking to be passed on, or that this is an action taken involving health and safety. That the property owner, the business owner has advised us that there are people coming on, essentially would be committing criminal act of trespass. If we don't act to pass this so they can accomplish it, we'd be closing the entire property. So there's a safety issue to it.
That's a good point. And I'm sure staff will reflect that in the communication with the council. So thanks for making that. Then all in favor of the motion before us, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The modification to the special permit is approved. And we move on to old business before we get to our new business.
Your old business item is AS 2106. This is an administrative permit for an off-premise advertising sign at 617 to 619 North Geddes Street. JT Pichot Realty LLC is the owner and Park Outdoor is the applicant. It lies within a commercial class A zoning district.
The applicant is here, and I know this was first heard 2 meetings back. I think it was held at the last meeting. And why don't you give us a brief overview of where we stand and if there are any changes in the original proposal.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Rick Steele, and I represent Park Outdoor. I work for Park Outdoor. Do you need my address as well?
Yes.
Okay. I'm at 5600 Buck Point Road, Auburn, New York, 13021. So Steve Frank, my associate, has been here for the past 2 meetings, and he's out of town, so I'm here in his place. The application, I believe the proper terminology, has been held over twice because there weren't enough members available to vote. The location is properly zoned. We were given direction by the city to repair sidewalks in the area, and along with the property owner, we're going to do that. And we've already communicated with the city and have an estimate for that. There are other billboards in that area, in particular Lamar Outdoor, which is the largest billboard company in the country, built one about 1,800 feet away. So we believe we've covered our bases here, and we're just here to seek approval to move forward.
If I can just provide a point of clarification, the public hearing was closed, but the Planning Commission deferred acting on the first meeting pending receipt of additional information regarding this other billboard. The second meeting, the second time it was deferred upon, was due to a lack of quorum of commission members who were present for the public hearing.
Okay, my apologies if I misrepresented that. I certainly didn't mean to.
So can we confirm that there's a quorum this evening of those who were at the first public hearing?
If I recall, Heather, I don't have the minutes in front of you, which voting members were here?
Yeah, I just asked Jeff that.
I don't have my MASC or agenda.
I was here.
I was here.
Oh, actually, hold on. No. Because these minutes would be June 30th.
It was,
He does have.
I think it was your first live meeting, your first in-person meeting we were here for.
yes, how could we forget?
Yeah, right.
That was a June 28th meeting, I believe.
June 28th, okay.
Let me go to the July 19th and look for the minutes of the June 28th. So the members present for the June 28th public hearing were Mr. Kulik, Ms. Capella-Peters, Ms. Livengood, and Mr. Bowler. They were present for the public hearing.
So you do have a quorum here. George just can't vote.
And could we have a summary of what we found regarding the other application for another sign a half mile or so from the location that's under discussion tonight?
Yes, so they had asked, you had asked about the sign at 808 West Belden Avenue. The commission approved that with conditions in September of 2016. It was a west-facing single panel changeable message sign. It was oriented to the west towards eastbound traffic away from an existing two-family dwelling. As a condition of the approval, the applicant removed 2 existing off-premise advertising signs. Oh, and so that's about the sign. And this, you also asked about the comprehensive plan and any adopted plans, if it was referred to signage. We found that as far as a comprehensive plan, there is a, as far as the city's transportation goals, they stated to enhance gateways and wayfinding for visitors with the following objectives. One of them is to reduce the amount of unnecessary signs throughout the city. provide attractive, well-placed signs that enhance aesthetics and effectively communicate directions, and use appropriately designed and placed banners, consistent design signs, and so on to identify distinct areas of the city. So with respect to off-premise advertising, there wasn't anything specific. And we also noted the purpose of project site review. One of the bullet points is to reduce unnecessary signage. And that is all that we have as far as adopted plans and or part of the ordinance that we would use to evaluate this.
Thanks for that background information. So I think we are in a position to take some action this evening. I have two concerns about the project. One being that major street there, North Geddes, does kind of serve as a gateway to the lakefront area. And so there's a concern about additional signage in that gateway area. And the second is the character of the nearby neighborhood, even though the zoning is appropriately listed for the site that you have in mind for this. Right across the street, on the east side of North Geddes, there's a whole block of intact residential units, and it seems like that would have a negative impact on those residential resources. So I don't know if there's a way to revise this or reconfigure it in some way, but I distinguish this from the other case that was just cited because I think there were fewer residential units on the Belden Street, Belden Street, whatever it is, location. As I said, the one block, especially of North Geddes on the east side, is intact with residential units. And you see from the action of the Belden application, we did take steps to mitigate the impact generally of the sign. So facing the interstate, one-sided only, and so forth, were attempts to sort of minimize the impact on what residential units are in that area. So I don't know if you have comments in regard to my concerns or not. Commission members are certainly free to chime in with their support of or concerns about the application.
Well, we work hard to find locations that are properly zoned, and oftentimes a zone ends and a new zone begins, like residential, and this sign would be 40 feet or so in the air with lights that shoot up, unlike the digital sign that Lamar has, which is flashing every 8 seconds. They did a one-sided sign because of spacing, which is why they surrendered other locations. So they were in violation of state DOT, so they had to take down other signs in order to make that spacing work. These signs face 690. They read term we use. They read only to 690 to that traffic, so they don't read to the neighborhoods. But I respect your thoughts on that. It's properly zoned. It's the best we can do. It's very hard to find new locations to build inventory. We're up against big companies that have a lot more than we do, so it's hard. We responded to the city's requirement about the sidewalks, and we're going to take care of that. That's an additional cost. The landowner will get income from this, and then we'll supply a good outlet for advertising for local businesses. But there's no way around the fact that there are other homes within sight. There, we have that almost everywhere. We have billboards. It's hard. It's hard.
One of the challenges with any zoning designation, it doesn't go on and on. It ends
Right.
somewhere, and
It has
another
to end
designation
somewhere. Yeah,
picks up after that, and that's one of the
Absolutely.
challenges, of course, of this location.
And we try, in those instances, not to put up electronic messaging boards, the digital billboards. It's typically static. Is that coming from me?
I don't know.
Possibly hitting a cable with their foot.
Okay. Whoever was, stop. But the Lamar billboard has residences around it as well. We can't change that, and I respect the concern. I do. We just go back to the fact that it's in the right zone. It's very hard for us to find. We're not asking for a variance of being in the wrong zone. We're in the right spot. But I respect what you and the members have to say about that.
Thank you. I don't want to monopolize, so if the other commission members have a question or need clarification or want to comment, feel free to do that.
I think the concern of the residential, and I guess I would call it a blight almost, like to them, it's definitely something to really strongly consider, I think, in my opinion.
I couldn't really hear what you said.
Oh, I'm just saying I agree with my fellow member in regards to the residential.
The residential, okay.
And how that would impact them. I think that's something that's probably really important and make this a little tougher to go forward with.
And if I could just make one comment about that, these are way up in the air, so from the street level, and I'm not discrediting your opinion, from the street level, it's just a thicker telephone pole, basically, with a billboard on top. So, the pedestrian isn't necessarily looking at this as a massive ground level billboard, which we have them. We have billboards that are 10 feet off the ground.
But just to combat that, I don't think it's the matter of the pedestrian, the everyday walker. It's the factor of the residents who live there,
right,
and have to see this and every day. I think that's probably more important than the pedestrian.
Right.
Not more important, excuse me, but should be more considered.
Okay.
Considering they a city resident who now has to deal with this big old sign in front of their dwelling.
Right.
I know the hearing was a while ago, but the county planning board also made those comments, if you recall.
Oh.
They had a modification about the DOT approval, and then they had a comment, and that's on page 242 in your packet if you want to look at, revisit that.
If it's the opportunity then to register concern or ask for clarification, I think we're probably now ready for a motion if there is one on the application. Well, we need to officially close the hearing.
Oh, the hearing has been closed, which is actually, if it had been held open, George would have been able to vote because he would have been.
Okay, all right, and it was because of the quorum issue. Okay, thank you. So, I'm not hearing any further discussion or questions, so I think we have exhausted our dialogue this evening on this, and we're in a position to consider a motion. So if there is one, actually, I will make the motion to deny the application without prejudice. And we'll see if there's a second to that motion.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. And all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay.
Steve, I was going to vote aye. I didn't think I was going to vote aye. That will support the motion.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
So that it's clear. Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? I think we have one.
That would be, you can abstain.
Oh, okay.
For the very reason that noted earlier.
Yes.
So that motion does pass to deny without prejudice.
Okay, we appreciate your consideration.
And
hopefully we'll come back with a project that will be approved.
Okay, thank you for this evening and
Have a
the
nice
previous
night.
evenings. We have, our next category of business is old business, and we have one item here.
Yes, the new business, first new business item is PR 1704 time extension request. This is the fourth request for project site review, demolition and new construction, 718, 720, and 728 East Genesee Street, 410 and 412 Furman Avenue, which is an unopened portion, 523, 525, 527, and 529 Cedar Street, also known as 728 East Genesee. The applicant is asking for a one-year time extension of the deadline to complete all the construction improvements in addition relating to the project site review. The original project was to demolish and remove an existing one-story building and surface parking lot, restore a historic church, and repurpose it as a retail destination and construct an 11-story apartment building on the property. The City Planning Commission approved the original project site review in 2017. This requested deadline is June 30th of 2022. And last meeting, the applicant requested that it be held open so that they could be here to present their reasons and justification.
Thank you. So someone or a team is here from the applicant to present this request.
Good evening, Ross Levine, 20 Northgate Drive, Syosset, New York, 11791. Members of the commission, and I hope it's okay, I'm going to read because I don't memorize my...
That's fine.
Okay, and I don't want to leave out pertinent information. Members of the commission, thank you for having me here tonight. I wanted to take this opportunity to provide you with our status at 728 East Genesee Street. I would like to start off by saying that although this might not be the most prudent, quote, developer thing to say, I want to convey to the commission that I have and will continue to always pursue what I feel is best for this city, not just my own interests as a property owner. As I referenced when we first came before you, I went to college here. My son is now a soon-to-be sophomore here. My brother, who is my partner in the property, went to school here. My sister-in-law went to school here, and my niece will be a senior this year at Syracuse. We are a Syracuse family. The more time I spend here, the more I love it here, and it is our intention to be an active participant in the future of this city for a very, very long time. With regards to 728 East Genesee Street, when we presented our project, I want you to know that our capital partner had given us a full capital commitment on the project. They are a real estate family that has been developing projects for over 80 years. They invest in communities, and in fact, they had never sold any of their over 50 projects they had developed. Our goal was always to find a partner that builds and then stays, and that is what we had found. Our family had been doing work with them for decades. Unfortunately, before moving forward, they encountered a situation that immediately changed their capabilities, their financial capabilities. They had to walk from the project the first time in 80 years. Please know that my family are the ones that bought the property. We are the ones that own the property. and as a result, we have invested millions of dollars and we are here for the long haul. That said, we had to start from scratch for a partner, and to be perfectly candid, we discussed the project with a number of potential partners, including some that have since meeting us have now come before you seeking approval from this commission at other locations. Our obstacle was that almost everyone we met with had no interest in preserving the church. We had multiple opportunities to enter into agreements with potential partners, but they were all qualified with scrapping the plan and coming before this commission with a plan that eliminates the church and would allow for a development on a perfectly square, more easily buildable site. We rejected all of those offers. Our goal from day one has been to build an incredible new building while ensuring the life of an incredible old building. I stand here today as committed to that vision as ever, and I will continue to do everything I can to accomplish that goal. I hope the day never comes when I come before this commission to say that we couldn't make it work. Today is most certainly not that day. Eventually, through the process, we were connected with Guy Hart, who is here tonight. You may or may not know Guy, but his family has been a Syracuse real estate development family for over 50 years. Guy and his group share our vision of having the church be an incredible part of the project. Prior to COVID, Guy and I had agreed to work together to try not only to develop our project, but also to try to make sure that the programming of our building aligned with some of our most vested neighbors. As you may know, there is an easement on Cedar Street, as that street is owned by Hutchings. Hutchings, as well as some of the other vested neighbors, were contacted, and we have had some very productive discussions about not only the development of our site, but how we integrate into the upcoming community grid, trying to see what the best options could be for smart growth. We are active in our pursuit. We are working on it tirelessly, and we stand before you as committed today as we were the days we closed on the properties. We have no debt, so we are invested into this project, this city, and this community for millions of dollars, and we wouldn't want it any other way. We have asked for the extension of our site plan approval so Guy and I can continue to work on making our vision of an incredible facility with great market, new rate product up on the hill a reality. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any immediate questions for the applicant?
Can I ask a question?
Not yet.
Can you hold off on just a few minutes? Can you hold off on just a few minutes? Okay, thank you. First, to commission members, are there any questions or points of clarification?
You said a lot, but in a nutshell, what's the reason, like the ultimate reason for like the extension? I just want to like clarify that. Like, what's the clear, concise reason for the extension?
So the ultimate reason for the extension is that we are looking at the feasibility of the site, and we're actually in discussions to see if we can make the site more viable for building. And it's a process that is taking some time to go through with like I said, some of the vested neighbors. We had. Go ahead.
One of the things that's been a complicated, just to add, I'm Guy Hart Jr., managing partner in the Hart Lyman Companies.
Thank you.
Just to sort of bolster what Ross is saying, the real challenge to this site is the church. And so you look at the site and you say, well, what's the thing that makes the site special? It's the church. And what's the challenge that makes the site a problem is the church. But how do you have that not be a problem and an enhancement? Prior to COVID, we had several options that we were working on with potential local partners, out-of-town partners who we were surprised wanted to come and be involved in programming that structure for an adaptive reuse in keeping with the original application. And the COVID situation changed those specific industries which could touch on reuse of the church as that kind of a structure in such a way that things became so uncertain as to take potential partners who were burgeoning businesses and bring them to a point where they might go out of business. Now a lot of those
potential partners are starting to resurface and talk to us and say, let's revisit. Unfortunately, some of those potential partners are no longer in business, and that is, I think, been the biggest issue. Having to resubmit will mean going to those types of partners and saying, we really don't have anything. And they'll say, come back to us when you do. And the problem you run into, especially with some of these, not only out of town, but also local potential partners, is they're in demand and there are options. And with some of the labor shortages that exist, some of these businesses have to make really intelligent decisions about whether to grow, how to grow, and when they do grow, where to do it. And there's competition for that, frankly. And so when Ross says we're looking at that viability and that feasibility, that's a lot of what he's saying is we're trying to, and I think we're close to coming up with some solutions that'll get us back here in front of you, hopefully with only some minor changes, and moving ahead with something as good, if not better, than what you originally approved.
So you don't have a projected time that you would like be able to like have something substantial?
We're literally to go into it a little bit. The programming of the whole site has been the focus of the discussion. Are we gonna build an apartment building and the church will be a separate building? Are we gonna use the church? We had discussed in our presentation that one day we wanted the church to possibly become a food hall destination. We had tangible meetings about potentially having the church become a kind of mixed-use venue with a bunch of different uses that could, we would hope, or we would think would be well received. A perfect example is the concept of if the church was to become, and again, this would be a separate hearing and discussion, but the it's only a 1 acre site, so the programming of one interacting with the programming of the other becomes very important. How does the church interact with the apartment building? How does the apartment building interact with the church? One of the things that ended up happening, which we think is going to turn around again, was the viability of a hall that was going to aggregate, you know, a couple of hundred people in COVID automatically became a non-starter. Like, wait a second, because those types of uses became horrific in a COVID discussion. That's not going to stay in the long term. There are people that are going to go back into venues, and there are people that are going to have great times. But it put a very long pause on the programming of the site. We are now circling back to those conversations because when you're putting together a plan with the financing requirements, the size of this project, when you're going to underwriters, whether it be an investor in the church use or the financer of the entire site, they want to know what all the components are looking at. So we are now back on track with that and going to potential partners and capital partners and trying to line it all up.
Okay, so my last question is, the presentation you gave earlier, and I asked you to reiterate your concise reason for the extension. You said within the presentation that a partner had a financial problem. The gentleman here, what's your name again?
Guy.
Guy? Okay. You chimed in and you explained that now COVID is part of the problem. So I'm trying to understand, like, you want the extension, but I don't see why you need it based on what you're saying. I'm getting like 4 different reasons as to why.
No. We are looking.
One more thing, I'm not done. And then lastly, you just explained that you don't even know what type of use you want. At this leg of the game, you don't even know what you want to use the church for and how. So it's like, I'm confused. Like there's about 4 different.
So they had a financial partner for the 11-story apartment building. the cost of the 11-story apartment building is massive compared to the cost of redeveloping the church, like 2 orders of magnitude greater in cost. I think you probably understand that. You sit on the planning commission, so you know how those numbers work. The issue isn't whether you can build an apartment building. We have plenty of them going up all around town, and we could do that. We could come back in with a new application and talk about demolishing the church. The church discussion is going to resolve itself in the next couple of years, because the structure itself is going to start to fail, and then you're going to have to condemn it, and then we'll be able to demolish it and build a big building. That's what a smarter real estate developer probably than me might do. I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but the point being that if you wait the church out, the church won't make it because the structure can't survive not being used. That's what happens to structures when you don't use them. I'm getting to a point. The apartment part of the project got scuttled before the COVID situation occurred. The church situation then became a problem subsequent to COVID occurring. We came into the picture right at the beginning, right before COVID happened. We had intentions of coming back to this commission and talking to you about programming for performing arts and still having the some semblance of the food hall concept. We were working with, I don't mind naming names. We were working with the people who run the Westcott that are out in Lafayette now. We were working with Danny Vault at the York, who worked as a consultant for us out at another project that we own. And all these things were advancing. These discussions were advancing quickly, well within the timeline that these guys had set forth for them when they got their original application. After COVID hit in March of 2020, which is now, you're going back, 15 or 16 months ago, those conversations stopped. And those restaurant owners and those other users, and then there was a performing arts user down in the tri-state area that we can't discuss because of NDAs, but that was interested in getting also involved in the musical and other performing arts portions of the church part of the project. This was going to be a major renovation of the church, and we also got into discussions with Hutchins. We incorporated in those meetings was Rob Simpson and Center State. We met with the mayor on the project. We were making really good advancement. The COVID situation came. I will tell you my opinion, and I've got a lot of projects going all over the place. Having to restart this application process and put that church in a place where we will lose a year if we have to reset the application. That's what we will lose. This is the most direct example I can think of where a situation arose where the types of users that we were going to get for that project had their businesses go into a state of total crisis. So that's why we're here asking for that extension. We're not asking for a 15 or 16 month extension, which is really more appropriate based on here we are again. We had to wear a mask up to the podium. We're not done with COVID, not even by a long shot, and it hasn't even gotten cold out yet. But I will tell you, the resilience of some of those business leaders is such that they want to start working on new projects again. And I think that is what will happen. But I will tell you, I think we need that time. This group needs that extension.
And I want to add one thing. Whenever you're in a setting like this, you try and understand what the motivation of everybody in the room would be and how everybody could benefit. I'm going to say something that's just a matter of public record. Everybody in this planning commission could look up in 1 second exactly what we paid for the parcel, the properties that encompass this project. It's millions of dollars. Maybe I'm naive. Sometimes being naive is a good thing. If anybody could tell me why it would benefit us to have invested millions of dollars into properties that are generating zero revenue while we continue to pay our taxes and all of the costs associated with it, I'm all ears. I don't have any motivation not to get this project built. Zero. Every single day that this project is not built, is considerably worse for my family than if it was built. So in just trying to see if we're all aligned with what we're trying to accomplish, I just want to convey that there isn't a single solitary benefit to this project not moving forward, and we are working on it every day. That's pretty much as frank as I could be, and just piggyback on what Guy said. The only thing that happens, and I added a very important sentence in what I said. I said I want to do what's in the best interest of this city, in addition to what's in the best interest of me. If this planning commission said, you know what, we have a capacity, we have a this, we have a pipeline, and this project is actually blocking something that might be viable, I would listen to that. I would almost be willing to say, okay, you know what, move forward with that. If there's no tangible benefit to this commission not approving this extension, I'm telling you that we become considerably worse off. So in just trying to make sure that we're all aligned and we're all working towards the best interest of the city, if there's anything that is hurting this city from this extension, then let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. We're adults. I can take hey, we want to close it and we want you to come back. But if nobody benefits from that, I will tell you that it hurts us tremendously. And that's pretty much what we have to say on that. And that's why we are respectfully requesting the extension. And we will work diligently to come back here and move forward with the project.
Okay, thank you all. This is not a public hearing. It's new business. There's an individual from the public who apparently is interested in this item. I want to give her the benefit of the floor briefly. Ma'am, if you want to, you have a comment or you have a question?
I have both. I'm wondering, is this building, I'm not even here for this. I've been with funeral arrangements and I missed the one that I'm supposed to be here for. Is this building on the Historic Trust?
No.
It's not?
No. So,
Preservation?
Sorry. Andrew Schuster, 203 Wellesley Road, Syracuse, New York. I'm principal at Ash McGraw Architects. I came mostly just to vouch for Ross that my firm has been continuously involved in this project throughout the work that they've been doing to find new equity partners. The building itself is a Syracuse landmark property, is not on the National Register of Historic.
It's not?
No. So it's not eligible for tax credit financing. The owners of the site are working on this project is really unique for this area in the sense that it is a high-rise project. They're looking to build a long-term viable project. It's not a 4-story podium wood construction building that's going to fall apart in 30 years. And that is a more challenging project for them to fund. And that's why it's taking longer than it might seem to find an equity partner. But
So the issue is trying to find an equity partner, COVID, the church versus the apartments.
Well,
not so,
True. Hold on. Let's say it like this. We actually had an equity partner. And we had an LOI signed and we were ready to go. And do you know what the investment committee for the national REIT said to us? There is no chance you're getting the funding to spend this much money in that city. I disagree with them. I said, we'll find another partner. We spent 9 months with them. When you enter into an LOI, you enter into an LOI and you go into an exclusive. The exclusive is to do the due diligence, to go through their investment committee. I wish things took 2 months. I wish things took a week. When you go through the process with a capital partner and you go through the underwriting and then they ask how the church is going to be programmed, it takes time. Nothing would make me happier than if this was a $8 million wood frame construction building where it needed a couple of $1 million of equity, go get debt, build it ourselves, and let's go. We are trying to maintain the church aspect. We are building around a church. We are not using the site anywhere near efficiently as capital partners would like to build a project that would require this much capital in this geographic location. I love it here. I want to do more here. We are working on it every day. I have zero interest not to try and move this forward. I mean, I could get into, and I'd be happy to, I could get into the people we spoke to, the meetings, the start, the stop, the 6, 7, 8 months, going back and forth, negotiating, due diligence, going through the site work and the borings and this and that, going through 4 rounds of executive committee and then having the no's that we get. This is the stuff that we're working on that we're happy to share with you, but we're committed to getting this project built. It's taking time. And an extension allows us to keep working on it. It's closing of the permit, like Guy said, essentially just puts us further away from getting where we're hoping to go. But we're here to do whatever best for this city.
I have no further questions.
Have a comment, and that is, I mean, we like the notion of incorporating the church into the project. I mean, that was attractive to us at the outset, and as I understand the situation, the commitment to doing that has been both a blessing and a curse, as yet unresolved. Where we struggle is now the fourth a time extension request for this project, and this isn't so much your problem as it is ours, but as we struggle with other multiple time extension requests on other projects unrelated to this, it gives us pause. And we were just talking about that probably 3 or 4 meetings ago, and actually your project was referenced. Kind of whatever did happen to that one, not knowing that you'd be here soon with a request for another time extension. What I would like to suggest is, again, we have a member missing this evening who was part of that earlier discussion, and this does fit into a pattern of multiple time requests for extensions on the same project, and we wrestle with that. We really do. We want projects to go forward, but there comes a time when, and I'm not saying this is the case with you, but we need to think about it and have with other projects, and I think recently one of those requests was denied, that sometimes after 4 or 5 years, conditions on the ground change, and it warrants kind of a fresh look or a fresh start even in some instances. I'm not suggesting that's the case here, but as we know that we're going to get additional multiple time extension requests on other projects from other applicants, it requires us, I think, to move into this request with a little more due diligence and a little more deliberation, for which I would appreciate the participation of our 5th member who's not here. So I'm suggesting we hold this until our next meeting and engage our 5th member in this discussion as well, because she was part of the discussion earlier when we were wrestling with these multiple time extension requests. I know we're already past the original deadline, was end of June, I guess, or nearly the end of June, I think. So although I would defer to legal counsel, nothing bad happens by holding, since we're already past the deadline, I'm thinking, but I don't have a legal mind to really be sharp about that. Would that be accurate?
I think that would be acceptable action.
Okay. And who knows, perhaps there's even a little bit more of an update between now and those 3 weeks that you might be able to throw into the conversation when we reconvene at the end of the month, as long as that already past deadline, or that's now history, that deadline, that doesn't create legal or other issues, your conversations can go forward. We can engage as a full body in this at our next meeting and hopefully come to decisive action on the request before us. Sound workable?
I would just like to be very clear. Knowing what it takes to bring all the parties together for one project, I can't have more respect for what it must take to handle all the projects for a city. So I have total respect for what you're trying to accomplish and the process and that we are here. And again, I discuss this with our partners. I'm advocating for my project to be as clear as day. But if it benefits the city of Syracuse to try and establish, and I don't want to be the only one. I don't want to be the only one that takes the arrow. But if it benefits the city to establish some kind of different standards for extensions, we're going to be here for a long time. We want what's in the best interest of this city. We can't respect more what you're doing. We have an obligation to convey that it will make it less viable for us if we didn't have an approval in hand, but we are here for the big picture, okay? That's it. We are subscribers to It Takes a Village. It takes a village to make things work, so we are here to be good neighbors. That's how we're going to approach this, okay?
Thank you, and I think I speak for my colleagues when I say the Commission recognized in its original approval there's strong benefit to the city for this project, including the dual nature of it with both new construction and renovation of a property recognized by the Landmark Preservation Board is important, having an important historical value to the city. And I think that remains the case today. Those dual elements make it a very, I think, exciting project. You need to figure out a lot more details, we know, but we'd like to have that fuller discussion for the reasons I outlined earlier, involving other projects and precedent that would be set. And it was really helpful to me, at least, for the three of you to provide the context that you did this evening in terms of understanding where this stands and where the snags have been to moving forward. That's helpful to me. And so we'll leave it at that, hold this, and our next meeting is the 30th of the month, and I expect this will be on our agenda then with our full membership and attendance.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, all three of you, very much.
Thank you.
I think that was the only new business item we had.
One more.
Oops, I'm sorry.
Okay.
My mistake. I've been doing a lot of those tonight.
So, this new business item, this is SR 1409M2, the second modification to modify the floor plan for, this is a site plan review at 720 Van Rensselaer. The commission approved a site plan review originally in 2014 to construct a 5-story mixed-use building with apartments and retail. And it has been built, and they also created streets around there, if you remember. This proposal is taking a very generic open floor plan and modifying it to suit what in the lakefront we call retail, but it's a restaurant tenant. So modifying the site plan is modifying the floor plan of the site plan review is appropriate. They also want to modify the elevations with respect to an awning and signage. However, what they're proposing doesn't meet the exact standards of the lakefront, so that you will see that request.
Next meeting, I see under authorizations.
Yep, on your authorization, so that they can be heard. This floor plan review, if you so choose to approve, will help get them started with the building permits in order to make the interior renovations for the restaurant.
So as a new business item, are we contemplating the possibility of a hearing?
Well, for this one, it's just new business because they're just modifying the floor plan and there are no waivers or anything associated with that do not meet the intent of the lakefront or the standards. But the next time, part and separate is the signage and the awning for a hearing.
Site plan.
But this will help them get started, at least if you approve the floor plan change tonight. This does not need a hearing.
And so under staff review, any noted issues?
No.
Okay. I don't imagine there's someone here, is there? Are you here for this project?
Actually, as I mentioned, I'm late. I was here for number 7,
Ooh.
which is 32426 Rosen Road.
Let's get right back to that in just a moment. So back to the modification of the floor plan under new business SR-14-09M2. Is there a motion for action on that one?
Which one's that one?
That's the new business item number 2, Van Rensselaer
Oh.
Street. Knowing that we'll have an item for a public hearing at our next hearing for signage and, or,
No, because the others need a hearing.
Oh,
And this one was
could be,
a very minor modification, which can be approved as a new business item.
I move approval with a negative declaration.
Second.
okay, discussion on the motion? Then all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? So that modification of the floor plan is approved. Meanwhile, back on item 7, the Rugby Road application, that was approved earlier this evening.
Well, I have a question. I'm wondering, did they request that they were going to build or do anything to their present? I live across the street. Were they going to add to their house? Were they?
I think.
It's already, if you've seen it, it's already set as a one property.
Right, that's what the applicant spoke about. And I think she indicated that they needed this re-subdivision approval in order to apply for a permit for a garage.
Okay, they have a garage. I haven't been back there in years. At the end of their driveway, under a room in the back, around the back. So are they going to build onto their property?
Yes, and I can talk to you after they adjourn in the hallway about their specific plans. Yeah. They are building a garage. They're planning on building a garage.
This step needed to happen first before they can apply for permits for that next step.
Say that again, please.
The action tonight, re-subdivision, was required in order for them to take the next step, which involves the garage. So they haven't done the second step yet, but this was a preliminary step needed first.
And will that come before you? The garage?
No, the garage will not come before us. So if you want to, we are nearing the end of the meeting. If you want to hang around a few minutes longer, if there's, we might be able to provide a little bit more information, okay?
I'm questioning it. I have lived in my house for over 60 years, the one across the street from them. And I know that they're the second house built on the street, and ours is the third, and then maybe down the street. So I'm leery for any drastic changes. So is the garage going to be around to where their driveway will then have to?
Yeah, I don't have that information, but our staff member, Heather, may have some insight into that. So if you can hang on a few more minutes.
I will.
Okay, thanks for your patience.
Sorry I'm late, but I really did have family.
No, we understand. We understand. Then is there any additional new business items for this evening beyond authorizations for the next meeting?
Another question,
Yes.
and it's regarding this gentleman's request. Are there going to be parking spaces involved with this project? Is that in the?
Oh, you're getting down into the weeds, but yes, I'm sure there are, and I couldn't tell you the details now. We originally dealt with that probably 4 years ago, so it's a little old in my memory.
And is there a number of floors restriction when they're building a new building? I mean, I was looking at the article about Temple Concord. Their builders reduced the height by, I think, 1 floor or something like that. And
Well, they have a plan that's approved. I don't know how many floors, but they can't go on forever. It's specified in the plans that they submitted and that were approved. It's, I don't know, a number of floors, more than 4, 5, or 6, I believe. But as I say, this was something we acted on about 4+ years ago, so I'm a little rusty on the details. Okay, thanks. For our next meeting, it looks as though we have a half dozen new hearings to authorize, plus any carrying over for this evening. Is there a motion to authorize those public hearings for the 30th of the month?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor of the authorizations, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Those hearings are authorized for our next meeting on August 30th. And then, if there is no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, thank you. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? And we stand adjourned until August 30th, 3 weeks from tonight. Thank you.